So here's what I was trying to talk to you about on the ride. Generally, you have a tendency to get into an aero position before you've used up your high gears. You've still got 2 or 3 more gears left and you're coasting, which, is fine, but I'll try to illustrate why it's better to get into a bigger gear. Here we are on a fast descent, picking up speed, and at this point here, you should have shifted into a higher gear because, as you can see, once we start pedaling again, your feet are going to be spinning at a really high RPM right here. And that has the feeling of being kind of frantic and burning up energy that we don't really need. We don't need to pedal that fast if we're in a higher gear. And being in a high gear doesn't mean that we have to put a lot of power into the pedals. We can actually put very little power into the pedals and just gently turn our legs, and then we don't have to spin. The other thing I wanted to show you was kind of a tricky situation. We're here on a pretty fast-moving road on a narrow shoulder, and cars are coming by within close proximity. We've got opposite traffic coming head on too, so the cars that are passing us don't have any margin for error. They can't use the shoulder because there's cyclists over there, and they can't cross the double line because there's oncoming cars. You entered the driver's lane without much signal, and this is a really hard, tough situation to handle when you're leading. There are things that you can do to make this pass a little bit safer. First thing we can do is to recognize this situation when we're in it. When we know that we have a narrow shoulder, cars passing us on the left, and no middle lane or no passing lane for oncoming traffic, we know that we have to be especially vigilant. And in doing so, our eyes are going to be up as far down the road as we can see, identifying any hazards before we're on top of them. There are 2 skills you need to master, and one of them is the look back. So you're turning your head to the left, you're able to not only get a glimpse of what's coming up behind you, but also signal to drivers that you may be intending to verge. A look back communicates with not only the rider behind you, but with cars that, when they see a cyclist turn their head and look behind them, it clues them in as to, something may happen here. And it gives you information like, there's a car coming up on my shoulder. I need to be very careful how I handle this situation. And instead of, giving yourself this much room to avoid the branch, you might take it a little bit closer and stay just on top of that white line. You did really well here. I think you avoided the obstacle, knowing that you also needed to avoid a car that may be coming up on your left. But I would try to just ride that line a little bit tighter, because there are so many distractions now for drivers that in this situation there's really no margin for error, and we really have to have a very attentive driver, and everything has to go perfectly for an accident not to happen here. The driver doesn't have an escape route to the left because of oncoming traffic. He has to be paying very close attention to the cyclist on his right in case the cyclist swerves like he did. And, there's just no room for error. Practice when you can the look back, and the second skill I forgot to mention, holding a line. That is riding a straight line while you take your eyes off the road. And you can combine them, doing the look back and holding the line into one smooth movement, in which case your bike stays true to course while you gain information and communicate with those who are behind you all at the same time.